Right, hey guys, how are we doing? Back into the video from 6. Today, we're checking something out quite interesting. The most optimal akatsuki duos. I think this is an interesting one because I've always wondered who could have paired better. And I always disagreed with Hidan and Kakazu being a pair because surely it'd be more beneficial for, like, other people to have, like, an immortal kind of guy with them instead of just having them both together. Do you know what I mean? Like, Hidan's the weakest, but it's still quite beneficial having someone that could just take damage for you, surely. Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, utilize this whole immortality thing a little bit more better than just putting them together, wasted. Like, but anyway, yeah. Let's see what 6 has to say.
The best villain group in Shonen arguably carry the first part of Naruto Shippuden, but among the Akatsuki, tons of members either don't get along or simply aren't paired together with what would be their best matchup because of personality issues, at least in terms of what's most optimal. I'm going to aim with this video to create the most optimal duo for each relevant part of this criminal organization.
Cool.
It won't be as simple as saying, well, Pain and Obito are the strongest, so this is the most optimal duo.
No, I disagree as well. You gotta have the strongest with, like, someone that benefits their ability.
I want to try and make it a bit more fun than that, and that's about all the intro I can stand for now, so let's get started. If you like this type of video, I'd like to ask if you could leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel with notifications on. Strength is going to be our first category because it's simple enough to go over. We're just trying to craft a duo that has the most strength. That is going to Pain and Itachi. Regardless of your opinion on the Itachi.
Let's not just put the strongest together, but let's put the strongest together.
Versus Obito or Obito versus Pain.
Okay.
I think it's fairly agreeable that Obito doesn't really come off as a strong type of character. I'm talking about Orange Mask Obito, by the way, not White Mask.
Oh, yeah.
Before hopping into the defense, let me clearly state my reasoning for the picks in the first place. Itachi is here because of his Susanoo, and Pain is here because of the Rinnegan. Whenever revived as Edo Tensei, Itachi claims that the caster wanted him and Nagato together because with his Sharingan and Nagato's Rinnegan, they can do anything.
Yeah, okay,
Doing
fair.
anything is kind of
Okay, fair enough.
at the bare minimum, since Itachi and Nagato are being used as soldiers. I think it's fair to interpret this as beat anyone, at least anyone Itachi thinks is still alive, like say Obito, for example. And I know Itachi isn't sick and Nagato is Nagato, not Pain, so it's not exactly the same as the duo I picked, but they still possess the same abilities that Itachi claimed would make them capable of anything. Itachi has a Susanoo that boasts a perfect offense and defense according to the data book, with arguably two of the strongest Mangekyo abilities on top of that, with Tsukuyomi and Amaterasu. Pain obviously has all the powers of the Rinnegan, which really shouldn't need any explanation. He can push, pull, revive, has infinite summons, and absorb chakra. It's really easy to see why Itachi would think a pairing of these two eyes would make a duo unstoppable. Some runner-ups for this duo are Pain and Obito. There's obviously some good combos that can be pulled off with Kamui and the Rinnegan. And without being too technical, since Itachi does specify his Sharingan when talking about Nagato and them being able to do anything, Obito also has a Mangekyo Sharingan the same way Itachi does. And although he can't do everything Itachi can, Kamui is still an extremely potent ability, and its weakness is only exploited when fighting multiple opponents, or people like Konan and Minato, who in Konan's case she planned and prepared for Kamui for months and was able to take advantage of it by literally spamming. And in Minato's case, he is one of the smartest characters in the verse, and on top of that is one of 3 people who can even use Flying Raijin anyway. The placement is admittedly pretty tough to justify, but I still think Itachi's statement solidifies Pain and Itachi as the #1 strength duo. Nation destabilization is our next category, and I think this duo is kind of obvious. I have Obito and Orochimaru, two people who have on-screen successfully destabilized nations. I'm going to mention...
like Orochimaru in the very first, like, story, first part of Naruto, not Shippuden, Naruto, he bloody, kills a Kage and disguises himself as said Kage to then nearly kill another Kage. Like,
both Deidara and Sasori here as well as potential backups for this duo, because Deidara C3 on screen almost exploded the entire Sand Village, and Sasori claims to have taken out a country with his 1000 puppet jutsu. Both of these are more like nation destruction rather than simple destabilization, so I didn't pick them to be a part of the actual main group. Sasori is a much better pick than Deidara for backup, however, since he did assassinate the third Kazekage, which is stated to have destabilized the nation to the point where it led to war and entire countries were devastated. Deidara did take Gara, but the problem is the people of the Sand Village, speaking purely about the elders and higher ups here, do not care about Gara and instead chose to focus on stabilization rather than going and searching for him. Obito and Orochimaru, however, pretty much do things like this in their sleep. Orochimaru not only infiltrated and successfully assassinated a
There you go.
Kazekage like the two
There you go.
previous I mentioned,
Yeah.
but he was able to masquerade as him and get the entire Sand Village involved in a plot to destroy the Leaf Village. This simultaneously
Incredible.
ended in the deaths of two leaders of the two major villages, and in the case of Konoha, the death of the longest reigning Hokage the village has ever known. Prior to Konoha crush, the higher ups of the Leaf were already fearing Orochimaru's ability to annihilate an entire country, and Orochimaru is the secret leader of the village hidden in the sound, giving him access to a large number of troops with Edo Tensei and tons of snake summons. It's pretty easy to see why Orochimaru would be great when it comes to nation destabilization. Obito is similar in this regard, but honestly, I'm going to be speaking more towards his potential here. While Obito did control the 4th Mizukage, he didn't do all too much with this power. Some people would think that Obito is the reason the village is called the Blood Mist Village, but it was called that before he was even able to control the Mizukage, as we see the Anbu he was fighting against when Rin was killed say that they are from the Bloody Mist Village. Zabuza also mentions how it had been like that since he was a kid, and he's around the same age as both Kakashi and Obito, so that doesn't make any sense. The simple fact Obito can have this type of influence is enough to put him in these talks, but let's take it even further. Obito on 3 separate occasions has caused great damage to the Leaf Village. Once by letting the Nine Tails attack in the middle of the village, twice when he hunted down the Uchiha clan with Itachi, and 3 times when he sent Pain to the Leaf Village after Naruto. I figured since I was counting Orochimaru's village as part of his arsenal, it'd be fine to include direct orders from Obito to other Akatsuki members.
Okay.
I won't take it this far, but you could technically extend this to the entire Akatsuki as Obito's arsenal, but like I said, I'm not going too far. The first assault on the Leaf Village resulted in the death of the 4th Hokage, the Leaf losing half its Biju firepower, and obviously tons of debt. The second made the Leaf lose its literal strongest
I've
clan
just
and turned
thought that Deidara, I mean, we're still not there yet. Deidara and Kakazu would be like a perfect pairing. Because he wouldn't have to worry about killing him with his explosives.
one of the biggest prospects from that clan, perhaps even the biggest prospect, Itachi, into a fugitive and wanted man. And the third attack saw the decimation of the entire village. This is all without mentioning that Obito, using the same name as Madara, was able to get the 5 great nations to agree to go to war, which resulted in the loss of life of more than half of the active shinobi in the world in just the first day. And the number, while it increased dramatically in the following days, is not exactly quantifiable. Obito and Orochimaru could have one of the great nations turned into a normal village within a week, and that's honestly lowball. The 2 best Akatsuki members for live capture are Kisame and Sasori. This one is fairly simple. Kisame is a
Meant to
chakra
say
dragon. We know from the
Obito. Okay, that was confusing. Yeah, we're still using all the strongest though with each other, aren't we?
fight between Sasuke and Yoroi that draining chakra directly drains your strength. And as we all know, if your opponent can't fight back, it is easier to capture them. Kisame also just has the best live capture feats on screen. We know he caught the 4 tails by himself without Itachi's help, and he was able to successfully capture him. That feat
Very
wasn't
capable.
as impressive for a long time, but in the Minato one-shot, we learned that the 4 tailed Jinchuriki can summon a chakra avatar similar to KCM. The anime has Roshi using his lava chakra mode, which I guess is also possible to happen in the fight, but to be fair, that filler came out way before the Minato one-shot, and I say that the Minato one-shot takes precedence.
Oh yeah.
Kisame also would have captured B for sure if not for the interference of the Raikage as well as Samehada turning on him in mid-battle. According to Jiraiya as well, live capture requires more finesse than assassination, so Kisame is actually pretty impressive here. Kisame does call himself the best in the Akatsuki at a live capture, and while this statement is just him self-proclaiming that, given his track record here, I'm inclined to believe him. Obito is the obvious choice here. We've seen Obito capture multiple people in Kamui. In the case of Fu and Torine, he puts them under a genjutsu while they're in Kamui, so any hope of escaping is already zero, and usually a live capture has the purpose of using the victim for some reason such as information divulging or extracting a Biju from a Jinchuriki. But if they're under a genjutsu, then they can't even fight back or even attempt to. We've also seen Obito extract information from people under genjutsu like he did with Conan, so that's another example of why he's obviously so good in this category. Honestly, I'd imagine the only reason Kisame is better than Obito at live capturing the Akatsuki is because Obito doesn't really capture people, he's kind of lazy. Sasuke's also a good pick here, just because he has poison that paralyzes you, which obviously would make you easy to capture, and the only known antidote for this poison was made by the best medical ninja student. Money handling is an easy category to give Kakuzu. He's already the Akatsuki's purse holder, and I'd pair him with Obito since Obito can store all the money in Kamui. And make it
Okay, that's
impossible
interesting.
for anyone to rob the Akatsuki of money. Not that there are any ninja in the world who would even try something
Yeah,
like
that's
that.
really interesting. Oh, okay.
Fairly simple category, let's move on. Intel gathering. And for this, I have Itachi and Zetsu. Zetsu isn't the most physically gifted among the Akatsuki members. In fact, it's outright
Mate,
stated
but he's
that white
definitely the one to gather information. Oh my god, the way he can just sneak about and like just appear in stuff. Like, I definitely agree with this one.
Zetsu isn't a combat type shinobi, but where Zetsu undeniably excels is intel gathering. Due to being able to slip through the ground and being connected to nature through the trees, Zetsu can spy on people without exactly being in the vicinity, and when he is in the vicinity, you're not going to notice him unless you have some extraordinary sensory capability like KCM Naruto with his intent sensing, or Kabuto who was able to study the Zetsu that Obito had placed onto Sasuke. Zetsu is also able to mimic the chakra signature of various people, not perfectly, but enough that he can trick you at a glance. The only way to distinguish between the Zetsu and original person is either one of the methods I listed earlier, or Zetsu making a mistake and saying something that the original person wouldn't say. Zetsu can also just sit there and watch you, and while he's doing it, he's not only recording the battle, which I'll touch on in a bit, but he might as well be invisible. Sasuke doesn't even see him when he's directly in his line of sight. Of course, you could say Sasuke was just focused on Itachi here, which fair enough, but I'm just saying it's pretty crazy he didn't know Zetsu was there. Zetsu also, like I just mentioned, can record battles, and as far as I'm aware, this is literal. Now, he doesn't have a camera or something like that, but he also doesn't need to. He isn't writing anything down, and we know with chakra it is possible to share memories that you had with other people, but he shows these recordings to Obito, and Obito gets whatever it is that he gets, and he actually needs from them. So when it comes to making the best pair for intel gathering, Zetsu has to be on the team, and he just needs a partner, and that's going to go to Itachi. I'm giving this to Itachi just because of his experience as a spy. While he isn't as experienced as someone like Kabuto, who infiltrated multiple villages, he does have Kabuto's respect as a spy, and he's directly responsible for being the reason that the coup never came to fruition. Not only being the person who put an end to the whole clan, but the fact that he was secretly a double agent for both teams. I'd also like to throw in Conan in this conversation. Her ability to turn into tons of butterflies and cover a large area where she can seemingly both see and hear is underrated for this category.
Yeah, okay.
Reason I
Yeah,
picked her,
that is
though,
an interesting
because
shout.
This ability seems better for tracking than for intel gathering, as someone would get suspicious seeing a bunch of butterflies made out of paper just floating around them. But if it was real butterflies, I think it'd be quite different. Obito could also be picked here as well. We have seen him use the Sharingan to get information out of people before, like what he did to Conan. And we've also seen Sasuke do this as well, so it's probably just a skilled genjutsu thing. But the reason I didn't pick Obito is because that means Itachi would also have access to it on top of his previous spy experience. So let's move on to the next category. The next category is assassination, and I actually have a duo we've already seen before here, Itachi and Kisame. I brought this up earlier, but Kisame is the best in the Akatsuki at live capture,
Yeah.
which requires more finesse than assassination, at least in the words of Jiraiya. And with that being the case, Kisame already has the tools to do live capture well, and all he'd really have to do is not stop when the opponent is unconscious, like with Roshi, for example, where Kisame mentioned it was harder to capture Roshi than it was to just kill him. He's completely at Kisame's mercy once he's out of chakra, and Kisame could have just ended him. I picked Itachi here as his partner just because I know the two of them can work together since they are a duo in the actual series. I think an underrated person here would be Deidara, but I'm saving him for another category I think he would really excel in. Deidara assassinates multiple Kage guards when infiltrating the Sand Village from the sky. And honestly, guys, you could throw a lot of Akatsuki members on the team for assassination, since it doesn't explicitly require great fighting ability. Even Zetsu could be pretty good in this category depending on the target. We've seen Zetsu use his impersonation ability to assassinate different members of the Shinobi Alliance. Obito has to be in the conversation just for his Kamui Genjutsu neck snap combo that we saw him use on Fu and Torne. Kakuzu has 5 hearts that he's able to use and attack multiple targets. Like I said, you can literally argue for any of the Akatsuki.
Yeah, that's fair.
But since I went for Kisame, I figured his best match would be Itachi. Large scale battle is the last category we'll cover today, and I can't really pick here. I'll be honest, Pain Kisame or Pain Deidara, both are great picks for large scale battle. The fact Deidara can fly around launching bombs that cover an area around like C1 or C3, which was going to obliterate the Sand Village, makes him a super threat in this category already. And really, Pain has the same type of feats that Deidara had. With using his chaotic Shinra Tensei, he can level one of the 5 great nations. Chibaku Tensei, that could do the same thing. Village Destruction is the best base here for determining who has the best large-scale battles. Kisame, however, also has to be in the conversation even though he's never directly destroyed the village, because with just 30% of his chakra at his disposal, he was able to turn a veritable wasteland into what looks like an ocean, which is only more impressive when you consider the little puddle that Tobirama made against Hiruzen is said to be a Hokage level application of the technique. Then if you go look at Kisame's water bubble during the fight with V, and you see that it's almost comparable to the size of mountains, you can tell Kisame is also a contender for a spot in this duo. Honestly, I don't know who to pick. They're all great options, so I'll just leave it up to you guys. I think this goes without saying, but I know someone is going to be like that in the comments. This video is not meant to be 100% objective. This is meant to say who I think would best fit in these categories. If you think there are some better duos that I skipped over, you're more than welcome to comment that below. If you like the video, be sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel. But other than that, have a nice day.
Very interesting. Very interesting. But in the end, I think there's moments like I said, Deidara and Kakuzu. No, Deidara and Hidan. Because let's give Hidan, the weakest guy, like something to go at. So he can go around stabbing people, boom, boom, and then they're distracted because like Deidara's just blowing all things up and Hidan doesn't have to worry about it because he ain't going to die. And then he's stabbing them all and then licking his weapon, which is gross, and then they're all dying, and it's just like, oh, they're distracted by all the explosions, and then it's like he's getting blown up and then come back, and it's just, I think that's a cool combo. But yeah, anyway, Days of Legend.